Welcome to the First 40 Sports Show with the Goon Squad. It's Icewater and Puma on this episode. We're going to go right into the NBA Finals, the Celtics versus the Warriors. And Ice, I kind of think, and Pat Beverly kind of put me on to this, if you're not averaging or scoring more than 110 points a game against the Golden State Warriors, chances are you're not going to win the series. And the Golden State Warriors really took care of Dallas in a gentleman's sweep last week. And of course, Boston and Miami went to 7 games. Kind of knew that was going to go 7 games. Didn't know if Boston was going to pull it off. We talked about it last week. I thought Boston would pull it off, but it just seemed like, to me, I know Jimmy is happy with that shot with 19 to 18 seconds left on the clock, but I'm like, bruh, just score the basket and see what happens. They still had time to get the ball and make a shot after that shot. So your eye test on the conference finals and the finals that are coming up.
Yeah, conference finals. Wow. Let's go to Golden State and Dallas, right? Dallas, to be there was a major accomplishment. Golden State kind of showed you they were superior. They did show you that Luka Doncic can't beat anybody by himself. Not the team that's a veteran team. They did all they could, and you saw a few shortcomings and flaws from that team, and particularly for him. Now everybody's saying that they think Luka needs to get in shape, which we know that's the case. They do need to make some other changes, but when you play against a veteran team that was rolling and kind of getting their legs up under them and understanding developing chemistry like Golden State is, it was just a matter of time. And they showed you that, Luka, you can have all the heroics in the world, but you're not going to beat us. And they knew that, particularly when you have athletes that had length like with Andrew Wiggins and so many other people, and they could switch off of on Luka. Then it was just a matter of time. They just showed you that Dallas has some work to do. I do like Jason Kidd as the coach. I do like him, the way he was able to get them to this point. I think with some changes, they can be better and maybe put up a better fight. But it was Golden State's series to have, and they did. They should have a gentleman's sweep. Switching over to Miami and Boston, we got to that game 7. Miami did everything they could to try to come back because didn't know if they were going to be able to make their way back to game 7, right? They came up, had to win game 6 to go back home, and you didn't know what was going to happen there. Boston's showing a lot of grit, a lot of will. Jason Tatum is really stepping up. I think the emergence or the re-emergence of Al Horford is really helping them as well. Collectively, and of course, Brown is doing this thing. So as a team, they're coming together. Miami was right there. Miami needs more scoring. We know that. Jimmy he willed them to game 7, which is game 6 performance, right? Tried to get it done in game 7 as well. And to me, I think if they had a little bit more firepower, because I know Boston plays great defense, but they had some other people helping. If Bam could have gave them more, some other people gave them some more in regards to offense, I think they should have won that game at home against Boston. But Jimmy was trying to, come down to, Jimmy took the last shot. He's trying to win. You can go to the rack, and then you go to the rack. There's no guarantee you're going to get that call. That's the other thing. There's no guarantee you're going to get that foul call. I just think it was short. I would have taken the same shot. He had enough room. Any other time he hit that shot, everybody's losing their mind. Oh, Jimmy, the great Jimmy Butler. He missed.
I guess the thing is that ever since I was taught how to play basketball, you always have somebody down low to get a rebound in case you miss. Yeah. And I guess he hit that shot, I think, earlier in the game, and there was nobody there to rebound. And so my thing is that it's 19 seconds left. You have no rebounders to get a shot, to get a traditional 3-point play. I thought it was kind of premature. He said he's happy with it. His teammates happy with it. Yeah. That's fine. But I felt like, I'm old school when it comes to that. You got to have somebody down low to get the rebound, or to give them a chance to get the rebound, just in case. I know shooters shoot, and they have confidence that they're going to make every shot. But just in case something happens, you want to have somebody to rebound the ball. And I felt like if he would have waited a little bit, the shot would have been there. Or you go for two, get a better shot and look at the shot or the basket and get a shot. But that's hindsight. I'm the quarterback, coach, the couch quarterback at this particular time. So I understand, you go for the win. You wanted to go for the win at home. Usually, I would say if you're away, you go for the win like that. And you're at home, you're going to get maybe some favorable calls. That something's going to happen. You're a star player. We're not going to talk about that in the WNBA where Tarazi is expecting a call because of her, legendary status in the WNBA. But usually folks get, the benefit of the doubt, especially in a game like that. But, it's neither here or there. I just thought that Golden State was, they were kind of working some things out. And they let Dallas, it's almost like they let Dallas kind of have their last hurrah. And like, okay, we got to go to business. We got to get some rest and we got to get our players ready for the finals. And so it should be an interesting final. I'm saying the Warriors, I said Boston's been dangerous all year, and especially after the second half of the season. But I'm looking at the Warriors and the way they set up. Boston could play really good defense, but I thought they were really banged up in the last series. And the Warriors are not going to give them any help in this series. And so you got inexperience going against experience. You have offense against defense. Even though the Warriors don't kind of scoff at their defense, they're a good defensive team and they can lock you up. I think the Warriors with their bench have enough guys that can match up with the Boston Celtics during this series. And I'm looking at it, calling it maybe a 6-game series with Golden State coming out 4-2. It just seems like it's their year. I wouldn't be so surprised if it goes 7, and who knows what happens in 7 games with this series. But I just think some of the inexperience and some of the mistakes that the Boston Celtics made in coming in through the Eastern Conference, they can't afford to make it during this series because Golden State feasts off of other teams' mistakes.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And let me say real quickly for the record, you talk about old school with the go back to that Jimmy Butler shot. Let me just say this. The other reason why I didn't have a problem with him shooting the shot is because you had a defender in Horford that's a lot bigger than he is. And you go into the rack, and if he blocks that shot, the opportunity, if you don't get that call, you're really in trouble. I think he believed that he could have hit that shot. Horford was off of him. Normally would hit that shot. He hit a shot like that earlier that we had the Kawhi Leonard turnaround that broke his heart in Philadelphia. He had one of those, shots. And I just think that he took it. He missed it. Again, they had another opportunity to win it. It just didn't work for him. You got to give Boston credit. But looking at the finals, though, I think it's going to come down to, like you said, I just don't know if Boston has enough. Golden State has been around for a while. Think about it from this standpoint. Golden State has played in 6 of the last 8 finals, right? 6 of the last finals. They appeared, they appeared in 6 of the last 8 finals, and they won 3 titles with Steph, Klay Thompson, and also Draymond Green, right? And then you add in Poole, you add in Wiggins, now you add in Kevin Looney, right? They are really coming at you. So my question, we know Boston plays great defense, and they're gonna try to slow them down, but for as much as you want to give Boston up for their defense, let's not take away from Golden State was right behind them in defense as well. Right. So they plays good defense. So that too. My question is though, who's going to step up offensively for Boston when Tatum is struggling or Brown's not struggling, not doing well, where they go cold or they're being defended well? Who's going to step up? We always say defense wins championships, right? Say that all the time. But my question is, you got to think about it. This team still has to score. Boston has to find a way to score. So you have other guys like the forward Williams, then you have the big fella Williams. You have White that can score a little bit, but you got to score points. Golden State has the experience too. This is Boston's coach first rodeo.
Yeah.
Steve Kerr's been around, bro. He knows, he has the experience. I think the coaching will allow them to prevail as well. because as much as the Boston coach wants to guide them and he does a hell of a job, when you're running out of people, and what do you turn to? And one last thing, why I think that Golden State probably takes this in 6 is the one thing we have not seen yet in the playoffs. Maybe I missed it, or maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm gonna throw a gander out here. The one thing we have not seen, in my opinion, I've seen a little bit, but I have not seen Klay Thompson or Stephen Curry get hot yet. And I think they're due. They're overdue. And when one of them starts pulling, Boston, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
It's like a volcano. We have not, I mean, you've seen them hit a couple shots late, but like one is on fire where you're like, oh my God, Curry's on fire. How do we stop this? Is that gonna be, there's only one Marcus Smart, right?
Right.
Who is Marcus Smart gonna check out of all those guys? So I think if any of those guys gets hot, it's going to be a whole different, it's going to take them to another level. And I like Boston. Boston is proving me wrong. I thought Brooklyn might get them. I thought Milwaukee was going to get them. You go down the line, you thought Miami were going to get them. And they say, no, sir, despite what you may think, Mr. Farmer, we right here. And I believe it. I think they have a shot, but I think it's going to take a hell of an effort for them to get it done. Because I think the old soldiers, now we call them the old soldiers in Golden State, gonna find a way.
And one of the things I you keep reading, you keep seeing, Golden State is hungry. They're hungry. I haven't seen them this hungry since they won their first. But, Boston, I've been saying it for weeks. They're the most dangerous team in the playoffs, and they're going to be a problem in the playoffs. But I think the Warriors have the experience, and we keep saying it, that championship DNA, to be able to, even if they maybe fall 1 or 2 games, to be able to come back and serve Boston in this series. So it should be an interesting series with the traditional Boston Celtics who are going after that 18th championship and trying to get ahead of the Lakers, and the Warriors, who are hungry and they are back in the championship ring again, and they want it. They want it. So we're going to see who wants it the most. Looking at top headlines, man, this story just won't go away. 23rd suit has been filed against Deshaun Watson. And I was joking around last week about, Baker Mayfield, you're just holding on because he might be playing this season. But what is the NFL going to do? Are they going to really kind of step in and say, okay, you know what? We need to kind of step in and really kind of handle this particular situation? Because I guess the young lady who is coming up with the civil suit, the 23rd civil suit, saw, I guess, a documentary and said, you know what, I'm throwing my hat in the ring too, and I have something to say. And I don't know if it's something where it's just piling on, or is it something that the NFL is going to say, you know what, we were okay at 22 and letting you kind of sign another contract, play for another team. But now it's the 23rd, and we don't know if there's any other allegations that are going to be coming up. So it's almost like Deshaun Watson is not being upfront with everybody that, is involved with this. What are your thoughts on this, man?
I got to be very careful because I got to be very careful because I'm not trying to offend anybody. But this young lady came forward, and I read some of the allegations, and I read some of the same things. That sounds like she has very similar experiences as some of the other ladies.
Right.
Maybe she thought it was the right time for her to come out, which is her right. I mean, she can come out whenever she wants to. People will ask that question, why did you wait so late? You got 22 other people. Why now? Some people don't feel they have the courage or they feel like they're ready yet. So I take nothing from her on that. And she came out as saying she had an issue too. I'm not sure what the NFL, what else can they do? He did not, he wasn't, there was no criminal charges against him. I don't think her case is much different than the other ladies, or her allegation, right, is any different from what I read.
No.
So if it comes to be 40, if it's the same thing, then you kind of know what's going on. Again, I do think they will suspend him in the NFL, that is. But I also think at the same time, we have the one thing people are looking for is some criminal. So as bizarre as his behavior may have been, or maybe he might have been out of pocket, it's still what it is. And they've already said he's good. I will say this though, and this is not going to go over well. This young lady described her situation. So it was very similar. He was trying to do some things she felt uncomfortable with, right? But she went 3 times. Went back 3 times. First time, she said he was trying to do something. And then he called her back, and she went back again. And then the 3rd time, and I'm sure it's not to place blame on her whatsoever. None of these ladies they are victims, okay. But is it the money? If he assaulted you or you felt some kind of way, how many more times is it before you say no?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if he has a behavior problem, it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah, and that's the thing I was thinking about too. And I'm not victim blaming at all. Yeah. But if there's something happening to you that you're not really comfortable with, then you just don't go back. So I don't know her state of mind at the time. Maybe the money was the draw at that particular time, thinking that maybe this is not going to happen this time. Maybe she made herself clear that she was uncomfortable with this. I'm not sure, but it just seems that the stories it's almost like, to me, and I don't want to get in trouble with this either, but it's like you're reading the stories and go, okay, maybe I can fall into this. I'm not saying that what she said is untrue and things of that sort, but the other thing that I came out of this is that the Cleveland Browns, if they're really serious about helping this dude, they got to give him some help. Because if he's doing the same thing, he's not going to stop. And so you got to get him some help. And if he's holding on to none of this is true and all that other stuff, screw that. Get you some help so you can deal with the issue that you're dealing with. Because if you have 23 women who are saying the same thing of a certain behavior you're exhibiting, then, it's not the women that are the problem. It is you. So you need to get the help. And if the Cleveland Browns are serious about really kind of helping this young man turn his life around, get him the help he needs. Damn what he does on a football field. If he's damaging women like this, then he needs to get the help. And let's stop cheering him in, these arenas and get him the help he needs. Because after football, maybe he continues to do this and maybe it intensifies and it gets him into serious trouble where it becomes criminal. So that's the way I kind of looked at it. Like, man, how many more? Is it 23? Next week it'd be 24, 25. But if it's almost like he's like a serial kind of, a situation here. So instead of kind of like putting the women out there, like, they're coming out there and they're saying all these things, let's get Deshaun Watson some help.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think that's very key. I think he does need help, but I think part of it is when he said, you mentioned some things, he's like, well, none of it's true as far as what they say, some of the true allegations, but in his testimony, he also mentioned that, we were close to whatever. And, I mentioned this too. I made it feel like he said, one lady, he called back and said, I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And he said, if you want to come back, we'll do it again. But I think he clearly has a problem. I do. But I think too, that it really hurt the case of the women when they said they went back more than once.
Yeah.
I really believe that, because it's like, if it was so bad, why did you keep going back? And that's how a lot of people looking at it.
And maybe because he called, apologized or something, that it's like, you know what, there's a misunderstanding. Maybe they felt the need that, okay, I can't come back and nothing will happen. So it could be, there's his side, her side, and then there's the truth. So but my thing is, now you have more than 10, 20, brother needs help.
He does. I agree with that 100%. He does need help. But like you said, the NFL, though, it's like they saw nothing criminal. And that goes a long way, man, because it's like, it's one of those things where he was, forcing somebody. Did he force somebody to do something? He came close, and how they felt is one thing, but it comes down to criminal element, and they didn't see that from that standpoint. Was he over? Was he reckless? Was he above and beyond what a gentleman should be? Sure, but it'll be interesting to see what the NFL does in regards to suspension. Real quick, you mentioned about Baker Mayfield and them holding on to him. I hadn't said last time we spoke, but I don't know Baker Mayfield. You mentioned about being the backup. Why do you go get Jacoby Brissett if you're going to use Baker Mayfield?
Yeah.
I think eventually they're going to try to find a way that they're going to try to get rid of Baker Mayfield. They've tried it already. Nobody wants to really provide them with any picks or anything. They want to kind of wait it out, try to get him for nothing. But the other part too that I find really interesting is Seattle needs Baker Mayfield, and they know it. They know it. So maybe Cleveland comes down to what North Carolina, but what Carolina wanted to do is you take a hit on part of the monies and you send him on his way and try to get some stuff back. And that's how I see that possibly what Cleveland's going to have to do. Because why would you cut him and then still be on the line for the majority of his salary?
Yeah, and then the other thing is that I know Seattle probably needs him. If he doesn't work out with Cleveland, maybe he doesn't want to play or he pulls something fast, they have a backup. And I was wondering, I know we didn't talk about it in the last couple of weeks, but about a week and a half ago, the Raiders tried out or had a workout for Kaepernick, and I haven't heard any word about that. So I'm waiting for word to see what they kind of thought about that and whether or not they're going to sign him. And if they don't, if other teams may be interested. We'll see. We'll see. Also, this is what I did not know last week. And of course, the Lakers got their man and coach. They didn't pick Mark Jackson. And there were a lot of stories that were creeping up about Mark Jackson, about his past exploits with the Golden State Warriors. But I didn't know that the Lakers, I think, approached Juwan Howard. Mm-hmm. And Juwan says, no, I'm happy coaching Michigan, and declines the interest. And it kind of made me think that maybe LeBron does have some kind of say-so in it because, you know, Juwan Howard played with LeBron James when they were with the Miami Heat. So maybe he's kind of getting guys that, you know, he's familiar with. I know Coach Ham, he's familiar with because he played against them in the league. He's been in Milwaukee for a while. But did this surprise you that the Lakers approached on the sneak tip Juwan Howard?
In a way it did, but if you look at Juwan Howard's resume, he's with the Miami Heat as an assistant coach.
Right.
So he knows what it's like. And I think that's what made him a viable candidate to take the Michigan job. So we forget about him not playing, right? We forget about him being on that bench or being a special consultant. He's watched Pat Riley and some other guys in Miami for a long time. So we forget about that part. So it's not like he's green from the standpoint of being a head coach in the NBA, but he's not green when it comes to experience and being understanding the opportunity. But I think he probably looked at it and said, you know what? I like my job in Michigan. I love it. The Laker job is a hard job.
Yes, it is.
And do you want to go in there with that mess right now? Still have Russell Westbrook, you got LeBron, and you might kind of go off on somebody because you think they're being a baby and they pulling tantrums. When you're at your alma mater, and the Laker job is probably one of the greatest jobs ever, and it is. But if you're Juwan Howard, why would you want to go through that mess, bro? I mean, you starting a tradition at Michigan, everybody's coming back. And Chris Webber then buried the hatchet with Jalen Rose, and everybody kumbaya, and everybody feeling good. Michigan's winning. They're getting recruits. Yeah. So why do you want to do that just to jump in? And maybe the thing is, if you do well in Michigan now, the NBA will be there, bro.
Yeah, it'll always be there.
So why do that now when they love him at Michigan? So people are like, why are you turning it down? And I was like, LeBron is older. He's not young, and there's a lot of stuff going on. And I don't know. So I was surprised a little bit, but I wasn't, because I think the people that were surprised are the ones that did not know Juwan Howard's resume as a coach.
Yeah.
He's been around the NBA for a while. He's played. So I think I wasn't surprised. I was like, oh, okay. But I was a little surprised by Darvin Ham. that selection.
That's what the surprise was to me also, Darvin Ham. And I can see the Lakers are not going to sniff a championship. The 2020 bubble tournament, I don't count that. There are too many teams out of the West who are catching up to the Lakers, and LeBron is not getting any younger. And so they're not afraid of LeBron James and the way I know those guys, DeRozan and Lowry, were like terrified of him in Toronto. And every time they face up to him, they just couldn't win a game. So there's no fear factor when it comes to LeBron and Russell Westbrook and the old timers that he collected on that team. So I could see him looking at that and like, I got a better chance of winning on the college level than I do in the pro level. You got the Memphises, you have Phoenix, you got Golden State making a reemergence, you got Minnesota. I'm going to put Minnesota in the mix because you got those guys playing hard. There's almost every team. I'm going to take Utah out. When Denver gets healthy, Denver is going to be a team to reckon with. Don't know what Portland's going to do, but you got a lot of teams out the West that the Lakers have to contend with. And I'm not sure if they make it. Again, they didn't even make it to the play-in game this year. And I'm not sure if they're going to make it in another year. Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher, I guess they hugged it out recently. And Nick Saban said, hey, I have no problems with Fisher. And he's backed up on a lot of things that he said. Do you still think there's some kind of venom between these two, even though they've reportedly hugged it out?
Well, Jimbo Fisher never forget. Same way with Deion. They said we cool and all, but we'll never forget because he came directly for them.
Right.
He came directly after Texas A&M. He came directly after Jackson State. So even though it sounds like Nick Saban was trying to motivate his boosters, talking about we need to basically in this small, quiet way, insinuate that we need more money. We need more money to get these deals going. We need more money to pay some people. So y'all need to step up. If Jackson State is going to do what they do through this NIL, we need y'all to come stronger and harder. And he just happened to point this out directly at two schools and two people that really know of the process well. So he had to pull back, and now he says, I'm just talking about the process in general. But when you start pointing fingers, you really, I think I said earlier that I think it was a major mistake going after Deion Sanders because he knows the process. Right. He knows when there was real bags. We talking about, you got to get your bag now, it's NIL. No, we talking about cash delivery. I'm sure he's been bribed and he knew the situation. And it might have been where Nick Saban was involved, where somebody was talking about giving him a bag. So you got to be careful there. And we know Jimbo Fisher was on your roster, on your staff. Mm-hmm. He knows about it too.
Yeah.
So if they really wanted to play dirty, they could come for you and really explain why such and such was here and why somebody automatically just showed up and how you was getting things done. So they could be really nasty. They just kind of slapped his hand and said, all right, okay now. You really want me to tell the truth, dude. And now he's like, I was just talking about overall the process and overall. So he backed down because look, when people are close to you like that, they can come for you and they can reveal stuff that you go, after further discussion, I think I'm going to retire because I'm feeling some kind
further review.
Yeah, further review. I quit. I'm done and, pull a Joe Paterno. Anyway, we're going to talk. I'm just keeping it 100, allegedly, right? But, so he knew what was going on, so he backed down a little bit. He'll have those same conversations on the phone in private conversations and say, we need some more money because what I said was true. I shouldn't have just pointed the people out. So I think they're still going to be talking to the boosters. We need more money to get to lock down those players because now it's not as easy as it used to be.
I don't think this is over. I don't think this feud is over. I think you're exactly right that they're going, yeah, we're good, but I can't trust you. And the first chance I can let something slip out or something really happens, I don't think this is over with because he really made some allegations that could really kind of get folks investigating those two, investigating, not knowing that it could kind of spin back and hit him. And so after I think he said it, he regretted it, but I don't think this is over. I think that it's a matter of time before somebody spills the beans on Coach Saban and really kind of get to the nitty gritty of how you're, when they say when you point your finger at somebody, you have three fingers pointing back at you. I think this is a situation. I think that if he slips up again and he says something else again, it's over for Saban. The Major League Baseball part, I'm looking at the standings, man. I'm liking what my Yankees are doing. They're 5.5 games, according to my record, over Toronto. They've been doing something that is different from what I've seen them do in the last few years, being able to beat Toronto and Tampa Bay. Those are usually the two teams that give them the most trouble. The Chicago White Sox are in trouble. They lost Tim Anderson.
Yeah.
And so he's the guy that's been leading them all season. Cleveland is right behind them. So I look for Cleveland and Detroit to kind of overtake the White Sox. Houston is still cruising over the Angels. And also in the National League, the Mets are still cruising 10.5 games up and over Atlanta and Miami. Miami started out hot. Now they're kind of slowing down a little bit. And then Milwaukee, I was just watching them against the Cubs. Milwaukee seems to have that division not wrapped up, because I'm looking for St. Louis to kind of get hot somewhere along the season. And I asked you a couple of weeks ago about which team do you think that not doing too well now, but will get hot, and that's the team we'll look forward to seeing when the playoffs come and make a run for a World Series.
Yeah, when you look at it from that standpoint, I think the teams that might come get hot is, even though they're hurt right now. I mean, they're only 5 games back, but I still think they're not where they want to be. I think the team that's going to really make a run is going to be the White Sox.
Okay.
I think when Anderson's hurt now, they're not hitting the ball like they were, but they're only 5 back, right? Considering they're playing great baseball, but they're still finding a way to get it done. If they can still tread water, I think if they get everybody healthy coming back, pitchers and whatnot, they're going to make a run, because they're due. I watched them play the Cubs the other night, and in that series, and it made me almost look at what the hell why aren't the Cubs better, right?
Right.
Yeah. I think it was one of those games, but I saw enough from Chicago, from the White Sox, to go, they can make moves. Cleveland, I don't know. I think Cleveland is doing okay, but I don't know if they have enough firepower to kind of hang in. Another team that I think, you mentioned Atlanta. I think Atlanta shot their shot. They had their shot last year. San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
They're not that far back. They're kind of middle of the road. When you looked about that, you said Dodgers lead that division. San Diego about 3.5. I think San Francisco's like 5 back.
And San Diego surprises me because they're without our guy, and they're 10 games over 500, and so that kind of surprised me, because I thought they would struggle without our guy, and I can't recall his name right now. But I'm looking at San Francisco and San Diego, and they're not too far behind where they can kind of make some moves on the Dodgers if the Dodgers slip.
Yeah, particularly if, like, San Francisco and San Diego's, they're not known for this, but they even can find a way, because they had a lot of people, in the offseason. They can find a way to pick up like a relief pitcher or something. Because the one thing about the Dodgers play with you for a while. They do it early on, and then they even sometimes fall backwards, and either San Diego or will move up. And there was a time where Arizona jumped up before, right, took the lead, and here come the Dodgers with that last charge near the end of the season, and that's what they do. But San Diego and San Francisco are playing real hard. San Francisco did not spend all the money that the Dodgers did, so they're kind of set up like the Yankees. But I'm interested to see how, like I said, how San Francisco does, because they make things happen. I can see them coming together. Toronto back and forth, but I will say though that Tampa Bay has a way. I just don't know. I don't know if they can pull that magic out one more time. Tampa Bay has a way of playing that small ball. They don't do a lot of things. One of the things we noticed too was last season, the question is going to be, who's going to be Atlanta of this year?
Right.
So Atlanta struggled earlier in the season last year. But what they went out and they had a major issue was they didn't have enough strong arms to get them through the postseason. They went out, and right before the deadline, they went nuts. They got all these arms coming in. They got a couple bats. And it was like it was like a transformation. And like, before you know it, you sitting there looking at Atlanta like, we're going to win the World Series. And you're like.
And I think in San Diego with Tatis coming off the reserve, I think they can be the Atlanta of this year because it's almost like when I'm watching them, they are learning how to play without him, and they're going to be that much better with him. Because you're watching the team and you're going, how are they still winning? How are they still keeping afloat with their major guy down? And they're figuring out a way through pitching, through hitting, through defense. They're just doing it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And they, like you said, we've added enough. Acquired a lot of decent players, good players in the offseason. So now when you say Tatis comes back, it's going to really motivate them to keep moving forward. We do have some teams that are kind of not doing so well, and maybe their managers could be in trouble. I mean, we expect a lot more from Philadelphia. They have a lot of talent on their team. The question is Joe Girardi going to be in trouble?
Yeah, he's in trouble.
Even though you look at the Washington Nationals, Dave Martinez, they just won the World Series in 2019, but they look like people were saying that they might be one of the worst teams in baseball right now. So are they going to pull a plug on Dave Martinez? Like, how quickly we forget? You just never know how that ends. Fortunately, the Reds got rid of some of their top players early on in the offseason, and they started out 3-22. So the way it's done now, even though the team doesn't have the wherewithal, except for a few guys on there to make it through, the manager, Austin Falls, is the one that's always normally cut. Talk about David Bell, might be his time, might be up. For as much as Don Manning is done with the Marlins, there might be time for him to move on. And I don't know if they're ever going to figure that out with the Marlins, with Miami. I mean, it just doesn't know if baseball works down there, but they're going to try anyway. And also in Seattle, I think they thought they were going to have a better year. It's still time to turn things around, but Scott Cervantes is the manager over there. So those are 5 to 6 teams that you should watch out for to see if there's going to be any movement when it comes to the management. Because particularly with Philadelphia, they tried everything they could to make moves, but still hasn't paid off. The question is, how much longer are you going to be patient from that standpoint? You want to point that finger at Houston and Dusty Baker, but Dusty said, nope, we're going to still keep banging them trash cans and keep winning.
Of course, Blackthorn's not here to do the WNBA report, but the Aces are still rolling. They're 9-1, followed by the Mystics, the Connecticut Sun. But the Phoenix Mercury, they're missing, the young lady that's over in Russia right now. And you're right, Griner. And Diana Taurasi had a run-in with a ref last night and got kicked out the game, escorted out the game. And it's almost like they're feeling the frustration of maybe not having Griner there. But this led me to a question. I wanted to throw this as a question for the squad. Her coach mentioned, instead of saying, you know what, she needs to better handle herself in situations like that, kind of jumped on like, star players need to get calls and all that other stuff. And I felt when I heard that, I'm like, the NBA set a dangerous precedent when they started doing this years ago that, when you have a star player, they are above the law, so to speak. And so she felt that she could yell at a ref, she can disrespect a ref. Last year, she put her hands on a ref, which is, automatic, getting kicked out the game. Now she thinks that she can do certain things and she's getting backed up by the organization. What are your thoughts on this? Where I always felt like it doesn't matter whether or not you're a star player, how much experience you had in the league. If you have a violation or you break the rules, you get the same kind of treatment or punishment everybody else gets. But now it's like the star players should get preferential treatment, which I never agree with.
Yeah, that's easier. To say it sounds good, they shouldn't get treatment, but we all know that. Yeah. Diana Taurasi is taking it, she's pushing it to the envelope. She's taking it to that level. She knows she's considered a basketball legend in so many circles. And she's been fiery since we've known her from back in days in college, right? But I think now what she's running into is some of the younger players are like, nobody's scared of you.
Right.
And they're coming for her. And even when she's having disagreements with some of her teammates, with Skylar Diggins-Smith. And for that standpoint, so maybe the game is not so much passion or bias. She's not able to do what she did before, and it's frustrating. And she wants to cause. And when you play some of these better teams, like with the Aces, and you're missing one of your star players, and you feel like you should be able to get away with some things, or you deserve more calls, they looking at you like, nobody, what?
Yeah, and they're in last place with a 2-7 record. So, they're absolute last in the league, 12th in the league. So I can see that frustration, but I thought the coach did a disservice to her and the league, saying that she needs to get preferential treatment when, I understand you're a legend, all that stuff. This is why it's hard for me to watch NBA games, because the travel, once I see one or two travels, I kind of disassociate myself with the game, because it's like, if you're going to let people, step 3-4 steps, it's not fair to everybody else when you're calling that call on everybody else. And I blame Michael Jordan for doing that with the hop step, the hop spin around turn, and and now you got the, you can step back with the tippy toes and shoot a shot. And it's like, it ruins the game for me. And then when you let players like James Harden and all these other guys get away with it, and then other players try to get away with it. I watched a game with some young kids, and you had the refs calling those calls like, that's travel, that's double dribble. And the kids looking at him like, wait a minute, hold on, that's legal. They're mimicking the stuff they do in the NBA, which the refs are in their right to call it. It's travel, it's double dribble, you're taking too many steps. But, you have these kids mimicking that. And to me, it's really putting a stain in the game, so to speak.
Yeah, I can see you say that, but at the end of the day, the players and the coaches have to understand this is not the NBA, right? Like you mentioned, that level is what it is, and you can mimic and do that. You can do that on the playground, but I think that the referees on that lower level would be doing them a disservice if they don't call it. You can buy into it. It's nice to watch on TV. They get paid. That's what the league is doing in the NBA. But there's a lot of things we see on TV that mean we're going to mimic it and, emulate it. But it's just what it is. So they are doing the putting the stand on the game. But the real ballers, they're going to do what they got to do. It's what it is. So I think it's more of a popularity contest, because that's the kind of world we live in. I'm just saying, people, did you see I got to do this? Okay, well, if you do that here, little Johnny, it's a trouble. So your mama can get mad, daddy can. Oh, that boy look like James Harden. Okay, James Harden is just James Harden looking like behind trouble. Go back down to the other end. You still have to take the game is still pure to the point of the rules are concerned, and you got to teach these kids. And maybe they'll settle down. If not, then we just gonna keep calling trouble. So I don't blame the referees. You can say the NBA, but that's not who you are. You can, it's like, come on, man. We want to always, sometimes we want to put blame on our stars or this, that, and that. Dude, come on. That is your child. You are your own player, man. Learn how to play first before you start trying to mimic somebody. Learn how to play your game.
You see it all in the videos. You see, everybody's doing their little own mixtapes and the videos, and they're making all these moves that the pros are making. And you look at it, and it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth, because we grew up learning the game. You learn the game, and we will make the calls. You have a referee when you're playing pickup, and you make those calls, and then you're going to get in arguments with folks who are like, nah, that's that's the Euro step, that's this, that's that, and it's like a big mess to me.
It is, but then there are certain people that do what they got to do. For as much as they say that Steph Curry changed the game, Steph Curry still is a fundamental player. Same way with Klay Thompson. These guys are fundamental players. So you look at Harden and all that other stuff, but when it comes down to the nitty gritty, he has to go into his real bag. You can say things about the way that Kevin Durant plays, but when it comes down to the basics, if you don't have that, you're not going to be a good player anyway. So all them little tricks and little hop steps, they're not doing that all the time. Not when it comes down to the nitty gritty. So what we need to do is tell these players to that's all nice if you're at the park, but on the real deal, you need to learn how to play real basketball because you can't play. You got tricks. I mean, that's why and one ball players and y'all listening, I know they're gonna get mad at me allegedly, but you don't see a lot of and one ball players in the league.
The NBA, yeah.
The only one that I really saw that really made a difference was Skip to my Lou, Ray for Austin. But he conditioned his game where he used all of his skill set to play and become a great point guard. So if it was all about the tricks and, we ran through that and it came back, the guy, the professor and all that, okay, but professor was probably good enough to play overseas, but when it came down to the league, come on, man, no tricks is nice.
Yeah,
no.
It is. Shout out to Kevin Durant, puff pass. Your question for this week, man.
Leave Kevin Durant alone, man. He's just following protocol. 20, baby. 20. You know what's going on. Why you mad at the man? He's just following protocol.
It just explains a lot.
Well, he ain't alone. If he really pulls back the curtains on a lot of people.
If it Kyrie, I think they were firing it up. That explains a lot of stuff that was going on.
Hey, what you wanted to do though? I mean, what you and they put all that pressure on you? What you gonna do? You supposed to score all the points? You can only do work with what you got, right? People getting hurt, do what you gotta do. You might as well go on and alleviate your pressure, get your smoke on, and anyway, allegedly, but no, do what you gotta do to release. Anyway, my question is this: come to find out that there are more things going on with I guess Alabama fans were coming after Tuskegee head football coach Reginald Ruffin. Apparently, he suggested that Nick Saban should have Alabama play more interstate schools. Kind of let them, because he's the head coach at Tuskegee. So it's like, what we call money games. But they're like, well, we want to play too. So like Tuskegee, some other schools.
Alabama State is down
Alabama
there.
State, yeah. Then Alabama A&M, even some more traditional schools were Sanford and also North Alabama. But anyway, supposedly he came out and said they should, maybe Saban should open this up. But when he said that, some of the Alabama fans came out and were providing death threats to Ruffin, along with harassing emails and whatnot, saying you better watch yourself and coach don't owe you nothing, almost like he needs to stay in his place. What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's wrong. I mean, you have any other state, they have an interstate rivalry or they play the interstate teams. And I think Nick Saban has set up a culture where he feels like he's above the law and he can do whatever he wants. Alabama doesn't play any Alabama team. You have Florida who plays Florida teams. You have even Illinois. They play Illinois teams. Every state plays somebody within the state, even if it's out of the conference. So I think it's wrong that, and it shows me that Alabama needs to be taken down a peg or two, where you got the fans who are elitists and thinking that they have a pro team down there in Tuscaloosa. And so I think they need to be taken down a peg or two. And I think and we talked about for the last couple of weeks, I think he feels that they're going to be taken down a few with not getting the best recruits and all this other stuff. So I think it's wrong for them to attack this particular coach who's only saying what's right. We need to compete too. We want to build our programs to be on the same level. So why not play at least one or two games, with other teams? You're picking cupcakes anyway outside the league. So play some Alabama teams and build an interstate rivalry or build some kind of, some kind of buzz within the state of Alabama. And to me, I'm going to go even farther. I think it's racist because most of those teams are African-American or Black teams that he just won't play because he thinks that he's better than. But I hope it happens really soon where those players get their weight up and they're able to compete and able to take some of the recruits away from Alabama. I think they've been living on the hog too long, high on the hog too long, and I think they need to be taken down a peg or two. what is it going to cost you to play one of those teams at least once a year? What is it going to cost you? You can at least do that to have the people in Alabama, all the people in Alabama, be excited about football, because everybody in Alabama ain't down with the Roll Tide.
Yeah, I'd say that they call games like that money games, and we talked about that before. The money game is where a team from like that in the state will come in and play Alabama on their home field in Tuscaloosa and get blasted, get destroyed, and go home with a major payday. Whether you like that or not, but I think it's asinine for them to come up and provide death threats to this man because I mean, the death threats because he's
trying to build they need money to build their programs too. That's why they take those games. They want to build their program.
You talk about elitist attitude. It's like the death threats. I mean, over a football game. I mean, that's a bit much, and people are gonna do what they do. But if it never happens, that's cool. But if anything, Saban should. If I would, it would be nice to see Saban come out to his fans and go, "Look, hey, we're not. It's not that serious."
It would be, but they don't want any more competition. Okay, they got Auburn, but that's it. That's the only competition they want in Alabama. But it's not a black school. You know, Auburn's not a black school. But Auburn and Alabama, and I put Auburn in there too. Y'all been living high off the hog, even though Auburn's not winning a lot. They've been living high off the hog. They need to be taken down a peg or two and give these other schools a chance to eat and have some success.
Yeah, and I guess like I said, my main thing though is if you're saving and you don't want to do that because you have an elitist attitude, at least come out and make an announcement to your fans. Say we don't need to do that about threatening nobody's life. I mean, we're gonna keep doing what we do. They may never ever play anyway. And we run our program our own way. Thank you for the suggestion, but this is how we do it. But to sit up and stand back and listen to your so-called fans coming after this man for that, it's ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous. And I think if he is the guy he say he is, if he keeps going on, he should come out and take a stand on that because it will go a long way because it's coming from him.
And people don't really realize why we don't root for Alabama. It's maybe not the teams, it's the fans. That's why I don't root for certain teams. It's not the teams per se, it's the fans. It's the leadership and the fans. And he's not going to do that. He doesn't feel like he needs to. It's beneath him. That's the way he kind of carries himself, that everything's beneath him. Even with this apology, the half-assed apology to Jimbo Fisher. Listen, I'm going to say this one more time. Like, who do you think you are, man? You messed up. It wasn't somebody else you messed up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's the elitist attitude that, coming from winning. But I want to see the day where they're the bottom feeders. Yeah. And they talk about, instead of going after the coach at Tuskegee, saying Saban needs to go because he's not doing the job that they feel like he needs to do.
Well, I don't know if they're going to ever be bottom feeders because that's how they rolling with it. But I will say this. When they're not on top and they lost to Georgia, right? It's kind of showing you that things can happen. You never know what's going on, which is probably making them nervous because now we said before, when you don't have the ability to really recruit the depth that you had in the previous years, you're susceptible to lose. So they're always going to be in the top echelon of schools, I think. But now things are kind of getting a little bit more even keel. So, excuse me, if it may not be a Georgia, Clemson coming back or Ohio State or whoever it may be, somebody else's turn. And maybe Alabama's not going to win all the time. And that's what the issue there is. If they're not winning 5 straight championships or being always in the championship game, that's the scary part for them because Alabama, let's be real, truth be told, they shouldn't have been there if, was it? They a couple games, was it Texas A&M or
they got beat by an SEC team. They weren't even supposed to be in the playoffs.
Right, but even to the point where we went to the overtime where they should have lost to Auburn. They should have lost that game. Auburn, if the coach, it is what it is, but the coaches just made a couple key decisions. Alabama wouldn't be in the discussion, but you can't say coulda, shoulda, woulda. But I think time is working its way, and Saban's still going to always be around, but I think there's going to be some other suitors they're gonna make their way up that ladder.
Yeah, and I don't like the LSU coach. I guess I got to roll with Georgia in the SEC. But I think they need to be taken down a peg or two. And I don't look for Clemson to come back. I just look for a lot of different elite players going elsewhere, maybe the HBCUs. I hope it's a big, boatload of folks going to HBCUs instead of these elitist schools that won't give other schools a chance within their own state to eat and to build their programs. Last second shot, man.
Man, we say this all the time. I'm glad to get an opportunity. Somebody tried him out. I even had a friend of mine on social media put up a so-called report by Bleacher Report saying that that the Raiders signed Kaepernick to a 2-year contract. Again, fake news, false media. Dude, if you want to keep running around practicing, they let you on. I hope that Kaepernick does not have a delusion of grandeur. I hope he's not having that, because you've been out the league 6 years. They're trying to send you a message. They send you a message. They don't want you to play, bro. We talk about this all the time, and I might be wrong. Maybe the Raiders were going to do that. And if the Raiders won't sign you, and the Davis crew clan and crew over there that do basically what the hell they want to, and they won't sign you, you ain't getting signed, bro. And maybe he's just doing it because he wanted to keep his name in the news or whatever. I don't know what the thing is, but I hope this is not keeping you up late at night because you're not playing. I hope you have other things going on in your life, Colin. I hope you just kind of doing this to keep turmoil going and keep somebody watching you. That's cool too. But I hope you have more stuff going in your life than depending on the NFL to kind of mess with you and wag that little morsel in front of your face like they're gonna let you eat. I hope your life is not like that. I hope you're living better than that, bro. Because you deserve it and you're better than that.
Yeah. Interesting is my last second shot is on the same point. And if any team is going to do it, it's the Raiders. But there was a baseball player recently who would not stand for the national anthem because of what's happening with this country, with the gun violence, and what's happening with people of color. And if you notice, he's not getting the same press as Colin Kaepernick. Where's all the energy? Where's all the energy? A black man could do it, and you want to tell him how to protest, where to protest, what to do, how to do it. But here's a white baseball player who did the same thing. Little to no press. As Arsenio Hall used to say, things that make you go, We'll be back next week.